Thanks a lot. Yes, so a series of enlightening lightning talks, we hope. There's no reviews of these, so we can go wherever we want, so that's good too. We've got a lot of freedom in this session. So I'm presenting this talk on behalf of Misa Eric, who's a 3D developer at the city of Malmö in southern Sweden. It's a presentation I saw at the World Tour event run by Sweco in Copenhagen. So that seems a little odd. So that was a Swedish guy from Malmö presenting in Denmark. But actually the city of Malmö used to be part of Denmark and a couple of hundred years ago, and then the Swedish took it back. So there was some discussion during that World Tour event about, you know, with all the stuff going on in Crimea, maybe that's a lesson that the Danish can learn and they can come back and snatch back Malmö from the Swedes again. So some interesting things about Malmö in the southern tip of Sweden there. It's ranked 4th as the most inventive city in the world per capita. So with the number of patent applications per 10,000 people, so it's well up there. 7th most bicycle-friendly city as well. So that's kind of obviously an interesting place to visit. They have this scary city logo, which is based on a griffin. So the modern 3D workshop, they've advanced a little bit there in terms of carving out 3D models of the city. And so now they're using some 3D printing. And so what I thought I would take actually some of this brief time just to show you what 3D printing looks like. Oh, actually, I don't need to do that. So somehow I've got this movie which I've got to get across.
Here we go. One step at a time, don't be living on the line. I don't need a friend, I got more than on the mind. Sunshine in my brain, making everyone complain. Radio in the heart, don't be being so strange. Think I'm losing it, baby, where have you been? Everybody says that you're moving again. I don't wanna be right, baby, every single night. I could tell you a thing about taking your time. It's making me nervous, yeah. One step at a time, don't be living on the line. I don't need a friend, I got more than on my mind. Sunshine in my brain, making everyone complain. Radio in the heart, don't be being so strange. Think I'm losing it, baby, where have you been? Everybody says that you're moving again. I don't wanna be right, baby, every single night. I can tell you a thing about taking your time. It's making me nervous, yeah. If I'm losing it, baby, where have you been? Everybody says that you're moving again. I don't wanna be right, baby, every single night. I can tell you a thing about taking your time. It's making me nervous, yeah.
So that's 3D printing with a gypsum or plaster composite type material. So that's one of the variations you have on 3D printing. Interestingly, Safe Software does support a thing called the Maker Faire, which was just last weekend, which is a kind of a fair of innovators and inventors and hobbyists. And the big part of that fair is actually 3D printing, and there's a lot of different types of 3D printing. with different heat-based printers and other plastic printers, but they have chosen the plaster gypsum model because they can get those color images put on, the textures put onto their buildings. They started the 3D printing project in about 2005. They wanted to build a 3D model of Malmo, and then they thought that they would use that in numerous ways, and one would be a 3D print model of the city. So that's part of that model. They're not that actually that unique, and got another link here. If I can find the mouse, it goes over there, comes back here. Here we go. So they do. Other people are doing 3D printing of cities. Oh, there it is. So this was an interesting blog that somebody sent me just before this presentation. And you can see here that they're doing 3D prints of the city. But it's not even black and white. It's just white, because they're using these plastic approaches to 3D printing. There are new, apparently, plastic based systems that are coming out that are using the similar kind of approach to the plaster approach, with the plastic powder that you can put the texture on, and they're just being released now. So the city of Malmo are kind of fairly advanced in that approach, or the approach they've taken on 3D printing. Where's my mouse gone again? Get back over here so I can actually move the slides forward. Okay, so where does their data come from? They decided rather than purchasing this data, they wanted more control over it. So they're making all their data from scratch. All their 3D models are built from scratch. They're taking auto photos. They're using ASCII grids that they've generated. They take their building footprints and extrude them and put roof tops on them. They've got surveys of where their trees are and so on, and a lot of other detail that they put into this city, and they're using FME to bring all that data together and tile it up. That's important. That 3D printer that they have has got a size of about 250 by 380 centimeters by 250 centimeters high. So they have to tile up the whole city. Their city is about 5 square kilometers or something. So that's quite significantly larger than the capacity of their printer. So they tile it up, and off they go with the printing. So that's their workspace. They go out to an Autodesk-based format, and that Autodesk-based format can feed right into the printer. So that's what the feed into the printer is one of the Autodesk formats that we support. So a big part of the project, in the initial project, was what sort of base should they use? Because a big issue with 3D printing is to reduce the amount of material you actually use, because it's expensive. The plaster composite is expensive. So they actually experimented with a wide number of sort of bases, that then sort of shattered underneath them. So they had all sorts of different patterns to not only have a strong base, but to try and reduce the amount of material. This kind of pyramid structure in the end was the one they settled with. So when that's flipped over, they got a flat top, a nice kind of fairly rigid base that they can use. So that's the pattern that they actually have to print as the base for each tile, and then the buildings are built up on top of that. So this is the end result of some of the building, the model that they've got that they use for all sorts of purposes, city planning, presentation of different options to, to the public. The great thing about having a tiled model as well is that, of course, you can lift out a tile and then put in a new proposed area of the city to, say, well, we're going to do this, and we'll just plop that in and show the public what that might look like. These are what they've been printing so far. Obviously, some of the newer buildings they might be putting up, they might not have 3D textures, which the textures for the buildings that they print are coming from oblique photographs that they have of the buildings. You can see there's a lot of detail in here. Some of the buildings are cut by the tiles, and the printing is accurate enough that they just all fit together very nicely. And So quite impressive, really, what they're doing there with an entire city of the city of Malmo. I think that's pretty much the entire city there. So there in lightning presentation is quick thoughts on 3D printing of a city with the gypsum composite. Any questions that I might not be able to answer because it's not my presentation? I don't know what that was, but a lot there because their cost of living is higher. That's all we can say.
Presumably that only printing the one tiny thing at once was just for demonstration purposes?
Yeah, they will print an entire tile in one go, and yeah, they're not doing it building by building. Yeah. Well, FME is building that 3D model. So from the ortho photos, from the textures, extruding the shape file, building footprints, and everything, that's the whole composition of the data to go into the 3D model, tile it, and then produce that AutoCAD output.